Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you here. I'm Donnie Holland, Commissioner of State Parks for Kentucky. It's good to see you here for this celebration. It's something to be excited about. Very, very, very excited. This is the fourth stop on our Refreshing the Finest campaign. We started at Cumberland Falls with Governor Bevin and Secretary Parkinson, and this is kind of similar. We were out on the concrete. It was 104 degrees that day, and so we retired to the inside to do some press work that day. It's not quite as bad here today, but I will have to say I'm from Lake Barkley over at Katie's, and just looking at the view, it's only the second time I've been here. And don't tell anybody I said this to my friends at Lake Barkley, but I think the view here is a little bit better than Lake Barkley. Just don't repeat that. Please don't say that. We have good news, and we've been allocated $4.9 million to spend in the 4 regional parks here, and we'll go through the details of that here shortly. But first, I want to introduce our guest speaker. Regina Stivers is our Deputy Secretary of our cabinet, Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet, of which the parks are a part of that. She worked the field office of Senator McConnell, Senator Bunning. She was the director of commissions and boards and commissions for Governor Fletcher, graduate of Eastern Kentucky, a native of Whitesburg, Kentucky. She's been on board since about January, I guess early January. She's done a great job. She's really a go-getter. So without further ado, Regina Stivers.
Thank you, Commissioner. It is a pleasure to be here today. You know, I go back with so many memories here at Lake Cumberland. My family and I were here probably for 25 consecutive years, starting in the 80s when my 2 oldest were very young. My youngest son had yet to be born, and started out with meeting on a Friday night over at the conference room. Everybody would gather and talk, and then for 4 to 5 days, the young kids and parents would go golfing and fishing and horseback riding, scavenger hunts. Everything you can imagine, they did. And the older folks would sit up here in the lobby and they would reminisce about old times, and we'd get together late at night. So there were times in the evening, I do remember they would run into the restaurant before it closed. Little ones would look up and ask for leftover bread. I'm not sure they knew exactly what they were doing, but what they were trying to do was lure the raccoons here over to the to the lodge. So, and one other memory I have, which my nephew actually said, please don't mention that, but I think the statute of limitations already ran, so I can mention it. His parents were actually checking out. It was the day they were leaving. So, as many of you all know, the indoor swimming pool and the hot tub they had about 20 plus years ago in there with all the great arcade games, had to dole out the quarters at the time. So my nephew's older brother, he engaged him to go to the country store and buy some detergent, and proceeded apparently to put that in the hot tub. There was some cameras there where you were checking out, and his parents looked up only to see these bubbles rising from the hot tub. Park manager did as well. Everyone proceeded to run over with him coming out of the hot tub with bubbles all over him, only for them to ask, son, do you know who did this? And he said, well, sure, it was me. Well, at the time, he didn't realize what that meant for his parents. His parents paid the price, and but it was still fun. He is now a state police officer, so I think he learned his lesson. So, getting into tourism, tourism is a big industry in Kentucky. It's the third largest revenue producing industry, contributing over $13 billion in economic impact to our state. That's especially significant in this region when people flock to our lakes and the largest shoreline in the lower 48. One draw to this region is the houseboat industry, and the first houseboat originated in Lake Cumberland area by Mr. Jim Sharp. We are lucky enough to have Senator Girdler here with us today, who is the grandson of Jim Sharp. He's doing very well, Mr. Sharp, and ever since that time with the first houseboat, boating has been a large economic driver for tourism, increasing tourism in our state. So when I met Senator Girdler, he was there probably 11 or 12 years ago at Sharp Houseboats. He gave me a tour of Sharp Houseboats. Well, I didn't realize then, until then, the attention to detail that goes into every boat and how people would come in and let them know exactly what they wanted in the boat. So it certainly contributes to our economy greatly, and including $825 million in economic benefit to the state. So it's vital to tourism. And another draw to the state is, of course, our state parks. They contribute almost $900 million in economic impact to the Commonwealth. We have 17 resort parks in our state, much more than most, and we have everything from here at Lake Cumberland and the boating to rock climbing at Natural Bridge, where they come from all over the world to rock climb. We have so many diverse state parks. They have their own little niche, and it's so beneficial to the Commonwealth. So we need to invest in our state parks in order to keep them in shape, keep people coming back, including my grandchildren and children, more reunions. So we want to thank Governor Bevin and the General Assembly for appropriating the $18 million to refresh our parks and to bring them back and improve them greatly. The region we're talking about today includes Barren River, Dale Hollow, Lake Cumberland, and Rough River State Parks, where they will receive almost $5 million to improve on the safety and aesthetics to the park. So we're going to be good resources. It's great news. We're going to be good stewards to our resources, and it's just the beginning of improving our state and making our parks the best in the nation. I also would like to recognize our park manager, Stephen Easton, and all of the park employees here, and the rangers, our state park employees. Thank you all so much for doing an excellent job, and thank you for allowing me to be with you today.
Well, it's appropriate that we're gathered here at Lake Cumberland State Parks because it's one of the most popular parks in the system. Of our 17 resorts, as Regina said, it's one of the most popular and one of the better known ones. Because Lake Cumberland and all of our resort parks are so loved by their community, it doesn't matter if it's a big park or a small park, the community loves their park. And so that's why it's such a good opportunity and why it's incumbent upon us to take care of all of our parks. And that's certainly what we're trying to do. Again, thanks to Governor Bevin and the General Assembly for giving us this $18 million. We'll go over, I'll talk about a chart. The chart is actually up in the hall. As you come down, you can see the chart, but we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute. But we're able to paint the lodges, the cottages, repair exterior, fix sidewalks, and many safety improvements, and many other things at our resort parks. Even here, we just did a little skit. Since we started this, using our own employees, those steps, the second row of steps there were crumbling. That sidewalk was crumbling. You could actually pick up that concrete by the handsful and chunk it into the lake down here. So already we've made those improvements that you can see here. And if you look at the railing up on top, there's some temporary protection there. Those will all be repaired. There's concrete kind of coming off of these beams. All these things will be taken care of here in the near term, year and a half or so. But you can see a chart upstairs that outlines the parks that Regina mentioned, line item by line item. I won't read all that due to I think Gil is bringing those bringing those down so you can see them here as well. I won't read those line item by line item. It's too long and too hot. But there is the chart. You can see that afterward. Here at Cumberland, we've already, like I said, carried out a lot of the work, and we've done the same at several other parks now. We've painted Lake Barkley, has a new set of golf carts. It's being very evenly dispersed around the state because the needs were very evenly needed around the states. We're working here in this pod of parks here to relocate the marina at Rough River so it can be used year-round. The marina, we're having an issue with these lakes. They're beginning to silt in. They're all silting in, large ones and small ones. At Rough River, the marina had gotten to the point, it's 119 slips, has 31 houseboats there at that marina, and all of them have to move out in the winter because when the lake drops to winter pool, they're grounded. So inside this $18 million, there's enough money now to move that marina to deep water. So that will help that park. It will help those operators, and just be a better economic boom for the area and help keep that marina full of boats. So that work's included. Much of the work so far, like we're talking about this concrete work and some of the initial painting and so forth, are done by our own employees. At some point, we have already started the process of bidding out some of the bigger projects. So we really want Kentuckians to do that work. We want the money to stay in Kentucky and to recirculate in Kentucky. And so any local contractors, they need to go onto the system and figure out how to get their bids in and get through the process. And that's our mission, is to recirculate this money through our economy so we can get an even bigger bang out of the money that we're spending. I want to underscore the point that the new money is primarily for existing buildings. We have 1,600 buildings in the state park system. I guess from what I've seen, every one of them needs something. And but we're concentrating on current buildings. We're not planning on building buildings. We're not looking at most of the business plans I've been through in the corporate life. We were tore all to pieces every year about growing the business. We want to take care of the business that we have, and we want to grow it internally. And one of the ways we're going to try to do it internally is to take care of what we have first before adding any new buildings. As you can see from the chart, Gail brought it down. The one that's on the far side shows the last 10 years of deferred maintenance spending on the state parks. The astounding thing that I saw there, that it was zero for years and years and years. It was zero. And then there was some county emergency funds, and then you see our $18 million, that big line on the far right. So it took a lot of cooperation to get that money. I think Regina may have mentioned, but we have a $240 million problem inside the state park system. It would take $240 million to bring them back to where they used to be. There should have been $18 to $20 million every one of those years to keep us from kind of getting into this situation. But there were zeros. I've learned a little bit in my 8 months about government. When somebody says they're going to sweep for you, I used to think they were going to come over and help you clean your garage out or something. But when when somebody's going to sweep you, they're going to sweep all your deferred maintenance funds out. So you got to be careful when somebody offers to sweep you, and that kind of happened over the years in the state park system for various reasons that I don't really know why, but it kind of got us into the situation that we're kind of dealing with. It was probably fun 15, 20 years ago. I bet this job was a lot of fun. You got to go out and build new buildings, and you got to put your Uncle Joe's name on the building. You'd have a ribbon cutting, and you'd ride your horse and shoot pistols and throw your hat up. And just keep on building buildings, just to build another one. And small thing was forgotten is that you have to maintain the buildings. When I was in industry, we had a certain amount of our income that went to deferred maintenance. When I was on the school board for 5 years, they threatened to put you in jail, but what I remember, if you didn't put your deferred maintenance monies, so that when the middle school at Tree County needed a roof 5 years ago, we had the money to put the roof on. But we're not the only one having that struggle. Budgets are tough. Tennessee's got this issue. We had a meeting with the National Park Service. Their number is $12 billion. They just kept building buildings and making these beautiful and wonderful national parks. Now they need $12 billion to get their buildings back up to where they should be. This year, the chickens started coming home to roost, as they say. We had a leak at last October at Greenbow. The roof had been leaking for 10 years. It finally, one big storm, it leaked and got the switchgear wet and set the building on fire. That building is still down. The lodge at Greenbow is still down today. Deferred maintenance issue. Jenny Wiley caught on fire early this year. Wiring issues. It's still down. The conference center at Cumberland Falls State Park had to be condemned. Finance engineers condemned the building last winter. It's not salvageable. It'll have to be bulldozed away. It takes $6 million to replace it. We don't have $6 million. It does not include it in the 18. As Regina said, this is a beginning. We can't fix all these problems today. So things were beginning to come to a head in the state park system. But with the $18 million, it's a start, and very happy that we had this opportunity. If you can look at our chart where we've had nothing, I mean, this is wonderful, wonderful news. We intend to spend the money very wisely and to the best interest of the park system. We did get P3 legislation passed this year. We're the only state that doesn't have it. Every state around us has it. Tennessee has it and has utilized it some, Ohio, Virginia. It's a chance to deal more easily with private individuals that might have money to put into the parks at some point. So we'll play those cards out as the year goes along. So what can you do to help our parks? There's several ways. If you have a friends group, join the friends group. We have some powerful friends groups, really, really, really powerful ones. The ones at Audubon State Park put on a $500,000 theater, world-class theater. They paid for that and added it to the park. So if you get a chance, join one of the friends groups. Molly is here. Caldwell with Kentucky State Parks Foundation. It's a nonprofit that helps us. Go online, make a contribution. They bring young folks into the parks. One of their missions is to bring young folks into the park and get them started again at visiting our state parks. We also have, we talk about all the maintenance that we need, but we don't need to de-emphasize the great food that we have. I thought I was going to kill myself last night at this buffet, Stephen. It was the greatest buffet that I guess I've ever seen. Don't tell my friends at Lake Barkley I said that, please. It was fantastic food and fantastic service, and the rooms are great. So we need a lot of safety things fixed, a lot of things fixed on the outside, a lot of painting, a lot of buildings are deteriorated, but let's not forget how good our park system is today. We have lots of business. Sales are up year over year here, 1.7 million year over year in sales. So people are beginning to come back to the parks, and we need to grow that number significantly here over the next couple of years, and then maybe we can get some more deferred maintenance money. So bring your business groups, bring reunions. Let's have more weddings. Let's really, these are the people's parks. They belong to the taxpayers, and we're paying for them one way or another. So let's get business here so that would lessen the load on the taxpayer. Bring your kids and your grandkids. The kids need to bring their grandparents. Everybody needs to bring everybody back to the parks, and let's get them. Let's start taking them back to where they used to be. And again, I want to give special thanks to Governor Bevin and the General Assembly for the support of our park system. We truly appreciate it. So to kindly conclude, I want to again urge you to give your support to the parks. Use the parks. Tell your friends what we're doing here. This is being streamed live to several news sources as we speak here. So we're trying to get the biggest marketing bang we can out of this good news. And thank you so much for visiting here. I'd like to recognize a few folks. And if we got a couple of elected officials here. If you'd like to say anything, feel free. But we're so pleased to have Senator Girdler here, one of our good friends. Mayor Gary Robertson, is here. Gary, thank you for coming. Feel free to speak here in a few minutes. I mentioned Molly Caldwell. She's here. And I'd like to recognize again Stephen Easton for the great job he does here, and the park is just absolutely beautiful. Jenny Moon's his assistant. I don't know if she's down here, but there's Jenny. Thank you. And Christy, thank you so much. You always do a great job. Members of the media will be here. Regina and I will be here for any questions. We may want to retire to the air conditioning if there are very many. But we'll be here, and thank you all. Would you like to speak, Senator or Judge? Or anything you want to say? Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're serving lunch today. Don't miss lunch before you leave here. And we invite you to dine with us, and thank you so much for attending. And again, Regina and I will be available. And thanks everyone so much for your attendance today. Thank you.